Hello, welcome to Casual Fridays at noon. We with the Caregiver Coalition are here every week with more information for people who are taking care of loved ones, family members at home, with information with a variety of experts and information that we want to make accessible for you in the easiest possible way. And if you are at work, if you still have a part or full-time job while you're taking care of a family member, then you have an added burden of the additional responsibility and trying to find the time to make it work and to get the information that you need. So here we are every Friday live, although we're not live today because the platform live stream is not webcasting right now. It's not working, so this is going to go straight to the library, but will be then accessible to you. So if you happen to have tuned in live this Friday, April 30th, my apologies, but please email any questions that you have or comments, and we will either respond directly or at a future webcast or in the library. So you can see on the library here at the Caregiver Coalition SD.org that we have a number of experts talking about transportation, how to get from here to there, the legal aspects, the emotional aspects, dealing with grief and loss, and also dealing with the personal stress and burden that can come with taking care of a family member who is undergoing a health problem, whether it be an illness or just general frailty associated with aging or injury too. I'm with the County of San Diego, but I didn't introduce myself, Marty with Aging Independent Services Family Caregiver Support Program. And we tend to focus on the Family Caregiver Support Program that is supported by the Federal Older Americans Act on people who are taking care of folks over the age of 60, although it can be also any adults of any age with Alzheimer's disease or other dementia. And also people over 60 who are taking care of the children, grandchildren or kinship children in the family. So in that regard, today I'd like to talk a little bit about what we refer to as capacity, which is a legal term, but it also refers to, in general, just a perception of a person's ability to be able to handle and manage their own affairs, from making a cup of coffee in the morning to filing complicated legal documents to working with and advising their own medical practitioner, talking to your doctor. Are you still able to make those kinds of choices and decisions? And capacity, there's a term that I recently heard, and I think is very apropos, is fluctuating capacity. And if you are in this situation, if your loved one has a physical illness but is still fully able to engage and participate in their own decision making, a partner in care, that in and of itself, depending on the situation, could be extremely complicated and difficult. Add to that the fact that if your family member is losing their ability, their capacity to make their own choices and decisions, that can just amplify the complexity of the situation you're facing. And to keep this in mind, and this one bit of information I find certainly helped me cope in these types of situations, is that legally it's either or. You have capacity or you don't. And if you're judged to no longer have capacity, then you can have your rights taken away, legal rights to make decisions. But in most cases, it doesn't get to the either or. It is more in a situation where if someone who was able to do brain surgery was a professional surgeon throughout their entire life, and due to declining mental abilities, no longer had the capacity to do that kind of surgery, does not automatically mean they do not have the capacity to balance their checkbook, or to go shopping, or to drive. So those are the kinds of decisions. It's a negotiation. It's still a partnership, although the relationship with your partner your family member slowly begins to change, and that in of itself can be a core part of your responsibilities and your burden as a caregiver, and also a big part of the success of being able to find the best way. And in caregiving, you don't always successes don't necessarily mean things turned out great. It often means that they turned out better than they otherwise might have turned out. And sometimes, here's the really hard part, is that those of us that are assuming we have full capacity and are making the right decision, always consider the wishes and input and opinion of the person who is receiving the care. And sometimes, to our shock and surprise, they may be right. And especially if you're a working caregiver and you're in a distance a situation where you're providing support for parents or grandparents, say, who are caring for each other, one or the two of whom may have some sort of diminished capacity, and respect their wisdom and ability to make their choices. Part of our ability to make choices is our freedom to make bad choices. I exercise my right to make bad choices all the time, right down to stopping to get a cheeseburger that I know I shouldn't have gotten. But I wouldn't want anyone to take that right away from me. and sometimes that's very important for all of us to be able to make a choice in a given situation that someone looking in might say, no, that's not a good choice. Sometimes you got to choose your battles. There are some things that can be dangerous, a danger to self and others driving. If someone has diminished capacity and is endangering themselves and everyone else in the community, it could be time to have to make a decision. And some of the other the folks in the library talk about that. Floyd Willis talking about transportation, talk about that moment of truth in dealing with a family member in that way. So we have this week, if we want to call it autonomy or capacity, and how to just start to kind of frame that thought and that's where most of us are going to be. We want to get the legal documents in place when the person we're dealing with, including ourselves, has the greatest amount of capacity to make those decisions as possible. But short of the point where a springing power of attorney, for example, springs into being because that person is judged no longer able to make any safe decisions for themselves. Short of that point, it's a constant negotiation. And even after that point, when, say, as a power of attorney for healthcare or for finance, you are fully making those choices for a person, you still have an obligation to get as much information as you can from that person about their wishes in the current in the present time, based on the trajectory of what the life they've lived and the instructions given, how to carry things out, but also to continue to seek that input. Sometimes there are moments of clarity where a decision or an expression of an opinion will surprise you, and sometimes it is the right one. So always consider that. We're going to be back next Friday. Hopefully live stream will be working, but we'll post this to the library, and we'll continue to have the weekly sessions on the webcast. Caregiver Coalition SD.org. It's a wonderful collection of agencies that provide services and products, nonprofits, businesses, professionals in the field of family caregiving. Have a good weekend.